the bottom of it with your host, Joshua Moriarty.
Hey, yo, welcome back to episode 61 of The Bottom of It. Pleasure to be back, getting things up and running again after the COVID halt grind. We're back in business, plenty more interviews coming. What's news this way? Been doing a weekly radio show for my friends in Mexico City at La Bestia Records. They have the radio show, La Bestia Radio. It's a sick online radio station. Definitely worth a listen. As most radio is fucking awful, this actually is fun and plays cool shit you haven't heard before. It's on Wednesdays in the Northern Hemisphere, Sundays in the South at about 11 a.m. in Australia on Sunday. Hey, check it out. Get involved. Go to La Bestia Radio. They're on Instagram and all that. You can go online. Otherwise, what else I've been doing? Just working on my new band, Telenova's stuff, and figuring out the release of my new solo record. Hey, but anyway, enough about me, guys. It's not why you're here. Today's guest is Lachlan Stuckey from Melbourne instrumental soul band Surprise Chef. These guys are excellent. I'm a big fan. My brother got me onto them about a year back. Surprise Chef and Karate Boogaloo, who are the other band on the label College of Knowledge, which Stuckey runs with another guy, member of Surprise Chef. They released a split single, and my brother sent it to me asking if I knew much about them, which I didn't. But then I started following them, both the bands, Surprise Chef and Karate Boogaloo. And once I was living back in Melbourne, I just started seeing the name appear a bunch, and some cool people that I knew were getting into it too, so I knew I was on the right track. Yeah, I love the sound of their records. It's very live and dusty and gritty. It's all recorded at the same time, minimal overdubs, and all playing everything in the same room. There's a lot of bleed from all the microphones into all the other instruments. It's really about these shit-hot performances and these elegant chord changes. It's sort of just the right amount of musicality without being too in your face or wanky, which is difficult to do, and they are doing it very, very well. It's very special stuff. So yes, Stuckey and I got together a few weeks back at my place in Melbourne to talk all things music and jazz. We talk about the record label, College of Knowledge, Coburg Soul. We talk about Marilyn Manson and some awful rock star behavior. We talk about living and recording with your bandmates, being in such close proximity all the time, a whole bunch of different stuff, right? So enough chit-chat. Here we go, episode 61 with Melbourne band Surprise Chef, Lachlan Stuckey. Enjoy.
I don't know, maybe goth is a state of mind more than an aesthetic these days. I don't know.
Did you see Marilyn Manson getting in all the trouble?
I did. It's people are pieces of shit, man. Like, especially male fucking rock stars. Like,
yeah.
You know, it's not too too hard to be convinced of that.
No, well, he had a book out in like 1999 that said heaps of shit like that he was doing to groupies and stuff. So it was like everyone kind of knew.
Yeah, totally. When I was like 13, I was really, really into glam rock.
Yeah.
And my favorite band in the world was Motley Crue, and I read their biography, which is called
The Dirt. Yeah, I've read that.
Yeah.
It's gnarly.
So gnarly, like totally not proper reading for a fucking 13-year-old.
No,
but
definitely not.
And I know that they kind of like, you know, they frame all the things they did as unacceptable. Like they do say, yeah, we're out of control, we were drug addicts, and we did all this stuff that was really bad, but it still is kind of inherently glorified or something when all those actions are done by people who hold such a like iconic space in popular culture. When you're like a rock star and you are, you know, presented as this fucking god, and you do all this bad shit, and even though it is obviously bad, when it's put into the context of rock and roll and it's done by these people who are kind of infallible, it's kind of is allowed. Like it kind of is seen to be allowed.
Uh-huh.
Even when if a regular person did it, it'd just be fucking egregious.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe that's why, like, in 1999, Marilyn Manson can, like, admit to this shit, being like, yeah, it's bad, but, like, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas now the rules are kind of different for good reasons.
Definitely. The thing that annoys me is it's saying that his management have dropped him. I'm like, oh, now you guys want to look so holy and like virtuous. Oh yeah, no, we're definitely dropping him. As if you didn't fucking know. You guys would have made money off his book. Like you, and then suddenly everyone's like, oh yeah, no, he's a horrible bloke. I'm like, you all fucking knew. You were all in on it.
Yeah, totally.
That's the thing that always pisses me off about it.
Yeah, I feel that. It's just about saving face. And that stuff is like a totally ingrained part of our industry. And, you know, whilst I don't have a lot of experience at that tier, I'm sure it's only fucking worse. And it's like with anything, people are aware of these kind of systemic problems, whether they're, you know, whether it's sexism or racism or whatever. But it's only when it kind of comes to light that people want to be responsible and accountable, and we're stepping away from this dude.
Yeah.
It's like, you're absolutely right. Like, they fucking knew and they benefited from it. But,
That's definitely,
But yeah.
It's sort of the same with that, what was the Netflix documentary about Instagram and Facebook and all that? I can't remember.
The social network?
The social something. I don't know if it was network, because that was the...
Oh, that was
the actual Facebook
The social dilemma?
Dilemma, that's the one. And all those people who had clearly made millions of dollars off designing the algorithms and planning it all, suddenly like all coming out now, like, oh yeah, it's terrible.
It's real bad,
it's real bad. Totally. All in their mansions.
I didn't watch that because I know that social media is bad, and I know it's real toxic. But it's like when people are like, oh, if you knew what went into like chicken McNuggets, you'd never eat another one. It's like, well, I fucking like eating chicken McNuggets, so I don't want to know what's in them. Like, I'm not going to watch The Social Dilemma because I like fucking spending half my life on Instagram.
So you're big on it. You do a lot of gramming?
Yeah, I do a lot of gramming, more than I should.
But you're running a label, and you kind of got to be involved.
Yeah, I feel like that's what sucked me in, or at least that's the thing that that's the way that I rationalize it. Is that I do, outside of running the label, I'm a booking agent and I manage a band. Other than my own one, and especially with the booking agency stuff, you know, it's obvious that that like Instagram and Facebook and social media is the most effective sphere to sort of promote your stuff. Like, you know, you could walk up and down Brunswick Street and see who's advertising gigs on walls through placard campaigns or whatever, or you could get on Instagram and see what everybody's doing. And it is a really effective way to keep informed on what's going on.
A little too much.
Informed
of too many things.
Yeah, I definitely scare myself when sometimes like I realize how much I know about, you know, people or bands or artists that I don't actually really care that much about. I know like who their agent is and what their latest release is, and like, you know, who just left the band or whatever.
How much do you share with Surprise Chef? Like so do you have a limit of how much you'll do promote yourselves? Like, you don't share your meals, but you say who's dating who. Like, what's the sort of...
Well, I guess...
what's the aesthetic? I haven't looked him. I've been following you guys for a little while, but I can't remember. I mean, it wasn't too gnarly.
I think we have a pretty... I run the social media accounts for that band, and it's just a general rule of like only post shit that I think people would actually like to see or benefit from seeing. Perhaps stuff that I think I would like to see. And I guess after, you know, running the accounts for a little while, and last year particularly, our audience grew quite a lot, and we were able to see on social media. Sorry, this is such a nerdy conversation.
I asked.
We were able to see like what stuff people responded to.
Yep.
So the things that people seem to respond to most on our social media is videos of us playing. So a lot of the time, like we play pretty much every week, and we'll have a play. Maybe we're working on a new tune, or, you know, we've been jamming on an idea, and we'll just take a little 30-second clip and post it. And
I've watched one of those, definitely.
Yeah.
And that's like your studio? Is it someone's house?
Yeah, so 3 of us live in a house in Coburg.
Okay.
So it's myself, Jethro, who plays keys and co-manages the band and co-runs College of Knowledge, the label, with me.
Yeah.
And our bass player, Carl, who is a great player and a sort of sessional musician, plays in a bunch of bands.
It's got like a Hofner thing going on.
Yeah, no doubt.
I love that sound.
Yeah, it's great. Nice and woody, flat round.
Yeah,
flat wound.
sounds so fat.
Totally.
Okay, so you all live together.
Yep.
I knew something had to be going on.
Yeah. Our drummer lives with his wife
Okay.
in North Fitzroy. He has a much more civilized and adult existence.
That's like when the Chili Peppers are recording Blood Sugar Sex Magic, all Chad, Flea, Tony Kiedis, Flea and the guitar player are all in the house in the mansion, and then Chad, drummer, just comes in for the sessions for the day and then leaves. And for like 3 months, they're all staying there and he never stays with them.
Word, that sounds like it's probably the right decision on
Yeah.
Chad's part.
He didn't need to be there.
Yeah.
It's like, just come down, lay it down, fat, hard and funky, and then cruises off on his Harley and just leaves them to it.
Man, sounds like he's got it sussed.
Yeah. So I guess that's similar vibe.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, after rehearsal when the beers come out, then our drummer Andrew knows when to get off. He knows he's got to get up for work in the morning.
Yeah. Do the rest of you have jobs, or this is kind of full time?
Jethro has a job. Jethro works as a framer a couple of days a week. Carl does music teaching.
Okay.
Andrew, our drummer, is an oat milk rep. He goes around and hawks oat milk.
Which oat milk? Let's give him a plug right now. Khalifa,
yeah. Khalifa oat milk. It's great shit. We drink so much of it because we got a nice hookup. So he does that full time, and I am blessed and cursed to not have a day job at the moment, which is great because I have a lot of time to do stuff that isn't a fucking day job.
Yes.
But it sucks because it's real hard to pay rent sometimes. But I make it work.
Yeah. Okay, so you're all in the house though. That's the studio as well.
Yeah, so we've got the first record we recorded in one of the upstairs rooms, just with everything in the same room. And then the second record, by then we'd kind of converting the dining room into a tracking space and one of the bedrooms into a control room.
Okay.
So we could have a little bit of separation and a little bit of a higher level of control over the production. But yeah, it's really not a proper studio per se. It's just all our junk in a couple of rooms.
Sounds great. Second one definitely sounds better than the first.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. We really can't take any credit for the production. Henry Jenkins engineers, mixes, produces all the Surprise Chef records. He's a bass player from Melbourne. He plays in an absolutely exemplary band called Karate Boogaloo.
Okay, so that's the other band on the label.
Yes, yeah. So
okay.
he's engineered, tracked, mixed every release on the label.
Right.
He does it all, whether it's Karate Boogaloo or The Proteins or Surprise Chef, or we got a record from a new band called the Pull Your Socks Up Boys. He did that. He does everything.
Wow, cool. Handy information. This is basically why I do the podcast. Just
that's
I can steal like info and file it away for future reference when I'm like, need that sound. Who's the guy?
Totally. Well, he's a very unassuming man. He's a very humble man, and he's not one to tout his achievements or credits on social media.
Okay.
And
he's a working guy. Usually the producers that are doing really great stuff aren't posting much because they're too busy working.
Yeah, that's exactly. He fits into that category. And so, I think that second record sounds amazing for what it is, given it that
sounds
it's
awesome.
Just,
yeah.
Yeah,
it's like for what it is. It just sounds really, really good.
Yeah, and it's all Henry, man. Like he's got it going on, and people, like everybody knows Henry, at least in our kind of community. But I think people are only just starting to be made aware of exactly how creative and accomplished he is as a studio engineer now.
Yeah. There's always some new, real awesome person in Melbourne.
Yeah, I mean,
it's ridiculous. It
they're
doesn't
coming
stop.
thick and fast. Yeah, every year there's just new, fresh faces that are all like great.
Yeah. How long have you guys been doing Surprise Chef for?
3 years this year, I think. This is actually, we put out our first 45 February of 2017. So I guess that's 4 years now.
Okay.
Yeah, 4 years this month, I guess.
And what was it last year that you said everything started picking up? Was this sort of a moment someone posted something happened that like I don't know, someone famous tells you that you're great and then everyone listens to you? What is it?
No, I'm still waiting for that to happen. I remember when...
Was your song put on someone put you on was it the guy from the Beastie Boys? Was that?
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, Mike D from the Beastie Boys played it on his Apple Music show and put
Sweet.
it on playlist, which is pretty dope. It was a nice little nod.
Yeah.
But we put out our first album in November of 2019, and shortly after that, we licensed that album to a label in the UK called Mr. Bongo, who is sort of traditionally involved with reissuing kind of rare records, Brazilian stuff, African stuff, American soul and disco and funk. And we had been, they have a store in Brighton, and we had been sending copies of our releases for them to stock in the store for the last kind of couple of years. And after that record came out, they wanted to license that and kind of effectively reissue it and put it on their catalog. And that label has a really strong and kind of devoted audience or following that sort of look to them as kind of tastemakers, I suppose.
Yeah.
And so when, we released the record in November just on our label, College of Knowledge, and just did it to the best of our ability. But when they re-released it in June or July last year, it got the proper treatment. There were actual professionals working on it. It wasn't just Jethro and I in our pajamas on the couch, like trying to pretend that we're publicists or something. Yes. And so that's when we got a real big kind of surge in sort of new listeners when they kind of did that. And then the second record came out like a couple of months after that. So there were sort of two records. As far as most of our audience is concerned, there were two albums that came out within 6 months of each other that both got a really good push from Mr. Bongo in the UK and Europe. And that's when we sort of found that our audience expanded very rapidly. Is
the next one ready to go?
We're going to sit tight for a minute. We have a lot of stuff that we want to do that isn't another Surprise Chef album. We're going to, the next album is more or less written, but we record a lot of music at home for a lot of different things, and we're going to work on some kind of auxiliary projects and some other stuff before we, I think, jump into putting out another Surprise Chef album.
Yeah, sure.
So, yeah.
Where, you guys, jazz school, what's the deal?
Yeah, we all went to music school. We all met at Box Hill TAFE, studying the Bachelor of Music there, probably 10 years ago.
Yes, I reckon 10 years ago I went there for a part-time semester doing the music jazz course.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't learn a lot there, but I did meet some cool people.
Yeah.
I wasn't a very studious kid when I was 18, 19, 20. It took me quite a few years to actually turn the page on that course. There was a couple of summer school fucking units that ended up happening. But yeah, we all went there. Jethro was by far the most accomplished musician that early on, and so after a year of Box Hill, he ended up going to VCA.
Right.
So he did the Bachelor of Improvisation at VCA and
completed it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Completed in a respectable amount of time, unlike me.
But you did finish.
I did finish it eventually. I got to the stage where, by the time I was sort of at the tail end of the course, I was sort of moving into sessional musician stuff, and there'd be tours, and I just didn't care enough about uni to prioritize them over doing tours and stuff.
Yeah, I never gave a fuck, really. It was like I only was there to learn. I didn't care about any credential. It was more just like, how much can I soak up and learn? And if something else is going on, then I'll go and do that. But yeah, I always knew I was never going to need to use that piece of paper for anything. Yeah, totally. Unfortunately, a music degree is not something you can exchange for a job like other degrees. Nah.
For me, it was more about just meeting people. I grew up out in the kind of outer suburbs, and I didn't know anyone who's into playing music. And so I just wanted to kind of introduce myself into a community of people that were into music. And that's what uni was for me. But you're a high school guitar nerd? I wouldn't say high school guitar nerd, no. I'd say high school fucking guitar lazy idiot.
Really?
Yeah, I like learnt guitar all through high school, but I just had a guitar teacher that was I was really into metal when I was a kid, and I'd like go to my guitar lesson, and my guitar teacher would be like, "Hey man, have you heard about Pantera? I'm going to show you this fucking big Pantera riff. They're going to be your new favorite band." And I did like 6 years of like guitar lessons where I just go learn metal riffs with this dude.
Sweet. So you know all the riffs.
I reckon I still got a couple of riffs.
Yeah,
but
you do.
The thing that did was because I wasn't a very driven, studious kid. Having a teacher that was just about having fun and playing guitar. Just fostered a real great love for music and playing guitar. I feel like if it had been a case of the teacher being like, all right, sit down, now we're going to learn how to read music and we're going to learn scales and modes and stuff, realistically, I probably would have dropped off. I probably would have just, gotten more into skateboarding or something else that didn't require such a studious attitude. So I'm really glad for the way that I went through my early guitar learning, even if I didn't really progress much as a player.
Yeah, but you didn't do music at high school?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, and the teacher, that was more theory based and all that?
Yeah, I struggled through the theory stuff. Again, I just wasn't very studious, but I got through it.
We sort of had it the other way where our music teacher let us just come in and jam every day for that 1 hour, basically. He just set us free. So we'd go into the room and play metal riffs and do all that. And then maybe once a week he'd teach the curriculum and give us the theory that we needed. But then my guitar teacher was a jazz dude, so he was more on my case to actually learn. But the rest of the time, as long as someone lets you have fun with music, I think it's really nurturing. Because I know so many other musicians I've met, they didn't do music at high school because the teacher was just so classical based and there was no fun in it for them, which is lame.
Yeah, exactly. I think it also, I think we saw a lot at music school. I should preface this by saying that, music is a different thing for every different person, and there's no right or wrong way to like be a musician or enjoy your music. But we did know a lot of people in music school that got very swept up in the academia and institutionalism of music school and studying music, and they would spend all day, every day in their rooms practicing.
It's very, very common that with the jazz school people that just get too deep and actually almost look like they lose their joy of music.
Yeah, totally. Well, it's just kind of like, sure, you can cut changes and like, play anything out of the real book or, like reference all these deep Charlie Parker licks or something like that. But if that is just sort of confined to your bedroom, yeah. But again, if that's what you want to get out of music, then that's great. But we did find a lot of those people ended up kind of seemed to get a little bit disillusioned once music school was over, and like they could flourish and thrive and be like at the top of the ladder in music school. And when it comes time to do assessments and whatever, then they're hot shots. But then once it's over and there's no more assessments and there's no one to like kind of impress, it's like,
Yeah, because no one wants to hear it as well in the public, really.
Yeah, word. I remember seeing...
They're living in the past. It's not the fucking 50s anymore, bro.
I remember seeing, when I was in music school, seeing Bop Stretch play at Uptown. And Bop Stretch are like one of the key proponents of hard bop music in Melbourne. So it's like Phil Noy and James Sherlock and Eamon McNellis was playing with them at the time, and just a bunch of like truly, truly capable and incredible jazz musicians. I remember seeing them at Uptown when I was like 19, and it was literally like me and 3 buddies from school sitting in the audience and just watching these guys absolutely blow our minds. And halfway through the set, Phil Noy kind of got on the mic and was like, "Hey, thanks for coming. I assume everyone here is either a music student or a music school graduate." And it's like, it was true. It can be a bit of a closed loop. I don't know if that's because jazz is sort of impenetrable, like musically to people or whatever, but it does end up being a bit of a closed loop in that way if you continue that line of institutionalized, jazz music playing, I guess.
Yeah, you guys have got just the right amount in there.
Oh, thanks.
Of jazz, like perfect.
I think I would owe that to the fact that none of us ever really got that good at jazz. Like none of us can really flex that hard. So it's not like we're absolute guns that are just being really restrained. It's like we're only just kind of keeping up. And Jethro, on the other hand, who is an absolute fucking gun, he actually studied on guitar. He is without a doubt the best guitarist in Surprise Chef. But as soon as he finished music school, he stopped playing guitar and started playing keys.
Right.
So he has all this internalized musicality and learning that he got from school, but he is applying it to an instrument that he doesn't have as much facility on. So he's not.
Okay,
He's
so
not
he'd
chopping
maybe
out.
be a horrible guy on the guitar, just like
John
McLaughlin,
exactly,
Mahavishnu in your face.
Oh, I mean, when he was playing guitar, he definitely had the 2 overdrives. He was doing the like early 2000s fusion tone. He was like listening to lots of John Scofield.
Yuck.
But on keys, he's a tasteful motherfucker.
So that's what you got to do. Master one, then switch to the other.
Totally.
I've never really mastered one. I was good at guitar, but then I sort of it's the same. Played it for 20 years. Got good, but then now to play way more bass and piano and guitar.
Sick.
I'm sort of getting shitter, but it doesn't really matter. I still, when I play, I'm like, I don't feel any worse, and maybe like the fact that I can't do anymore is actually a good thing.
Yeah, when I was in music school, my guitar teacher presented me with an 8-hour a day practice plan, and he was like, "Yo, this seems like a lot, but if you want to be great, this is the bare minimum." Which was a great thing to hear, because I was like, cool, now I know I don't want to be great then. Like, if I got to do it 8 hours a day and like not do other shit, then I don't want to be a fucking impressive guitar player. I'm happy to just be an okay guitar player.
But your guitar playing's great. It's like its own, you got a sound, you got a thing going on. It doesn't need to be any more than, like any more technicality wouldn't make it, or virtuosity wouldn't make it any better.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for the lovely compliment.
it's true though. I mean it. It's like this, you got a real sound to the way that you play. So it always is just about finding a thing that feels like your own, or that you're comfy doing, and just do that.
Yeah, I would agree. Thank you very much. I do feel a little vindicated, because I'm certainly not the best guitar player that I know by any stretch of the imagination. But humbly, I would agree that like I got some kind of vibe.
Yeah,
and I'd feel kind of vindicated not working as hard at music school, because I'm happy with my playing makes me happy, and I don't feel under-equipped in the musical scenarios that I put myself in. So it's kind of cool. Like in music school, I felt super under-equipped, and I would have to work hard to keep up. But as far as the stuff that I like to do now, there's nothing that I am unable to sort of do.
Most guitar virtuosity is kind of gross as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's I don't know if it's something about like the way that guitarists have evolved in popular culture is
horrible blokes.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, just there's that. I don't know. Guitarists in popular music, it's like it's almost always egocentric. Whether you're playing jazz or rock and roll or whatever.
It's a giant cock, man.
Yeah, exactly. It's the extension of your wang. It's that thing, that masculinity or something. For for the most part, maybe that's what kind of repulses me or something.
Yeah, I totally get it. Do you have any guitar heroes though? People that sort of are your guys that you, or girls that you are into? Definitely,
yeah. The big three for me are David Thor, who plays guitar in Karate Boogaloo.
Okay.
Who was has just continued, like every single time I see the guy play guitar, it's just
similar. Yeah, because when I listened to your records and theirs, it's like the guitar's got a similar vibe. I was like, is this the same person or coming from the same place? Definitely,
it's coming from there's actually a bit of a tree or a lineage to follow as far as our sort of guitar influences. The one that sits at the top is Thomas Brennick, who plays in the Menahan Street Band and the Dap Kings, and he's one of the key musicians in the whole Daptone thing in Brooklyn. So he was like, he wrote and produced all the Charles Bradley records, and that Daptone sound that was happening in 2010, 11, 12, 13, particularly when we were kind of going through music school, that was incalculably influential on a handful of musicians in Melbourne, especially when we were in music school and we were hearing all this like fusion and all this jazz stuff that we were playing, and it was cool, but it didn't quite turn me on completely. But then hearing this Daptone stuff, which was the antithesis of that, that's very functional music, it's very like restrained music, and all the, it's about all the instruments in the arrangement working together to achieve a goal, whether that's setting a mood or telling a story, rather than impressive improvisation or really unhinged expression. And below him is Tom Martin, who plays in the Putbacks.
Okay.
And the Putbacks are like, for all of us, like people involved in College of Knowledge, the Putbacks are like the band in Melbourne. That was like...
What's their deal? I don't know that band.
So the Putbacks were also dudes that sort of went to, VCA and stuff like sort of 20 years ago, kind of followed a similar path that we're kind of following, became sessional musicians. The Putbacks came together like in the kind of early 2000s, I think, or mid 2000s. Kate Sobrano had just done this record in Memphis. She'd done like a soul record. And Aaron Chulai, a great keys player from Melbourne who now lives in Japan, was MDing the subsequent tour to promote the record. And he put together a band of players to play the record. And that was, I believe it's the original lineup, which is Mick Maher on bass, Rory McDougall on drums, Tom Martin on guitar. And there was another dude playing organ. It wasn't Simon Maven. But anyway, they started kind of playing together in this band for Kate Sobrano doing this tour, and then in 2009 they recorded what would be the very first release on Hope Street Recordings, which is a very important Melbourne soul label. It's been going for a decade now, and it was just like a trashy funk 45 under the name The Putbacks, and since then they have, as far as I'm concerned, been the most true representation of what, instrumental soul music can kind of be in Australia, so far removed from its original context in America. The Putbacks are the band that we would go see play funk music in Melbourne that would blow our minds. Like, there's a lot of great funk bands in Melbourne and were at the time, but the Putbacks just had something special, and they also had something that was completely removed from the commonly accepted aesthetics of what funk and soul is. A lot of the other funk and soul bands in Melbourne would, kind of put on the costume, wear the suits, portray, the kind of, the accepted image of what a funk and soul band is, try and replicate the James Brown Review or whatever. And there was something about that always rubbed me the wrong way. Whereas the Putbacks, like, were clearly just mad players who had loads of education and loads of talent and loads of feeling in their music, and they are like the genesis of everything that we're doing now with Surprise Chef and Karate Boogaloo. They are like the biggest kind of inspiration because they're the ones that we could see. Like we love old records, we love we love all the music that was made in the 60s and 70s that built the foundation of what we now do, but the Putbacks were the ones that we could go and see on the weekends and be inspired by.
That's important to you as well, like keeping it true to where you are from or not. Yeah, is that like a sort of ethos for you with your production or your writing? And
yeah, absolutely. I mean, the kind of moniker for College of Knowledge, or like the tagline or whatever, is Coburg Soul.
Yep.
Because, we aren't under any illusions of, we're not trying to portray any kind of any contrived aesthetic or rhetoric. We're just people who make music in suburban fucking Melbourne, and we're not trying to like portray anything outside of that. We're just kind of us.
does it have a sort of end point for you, like your music career? Where do you sort of, is there like shitloads of things you still haven't done, you want to do? Is there a point when you can say you'd retire? I always wonder sort of how far people see it going.
Yeah, that's a hard one. I mean, I feel like I never really made a conscious decision to pursue music. It just was something that played out, and it's, I kind of put one foot in front of the other, and it's never stopped being fulfilling.
Yeah, still working.
Yeah, and I'm like I'm 27 now, and I'm starting to get the classic case. Most people experience it around this age, I'd say, where you go, okay, cool, this is fun, but like, fuck, is this, where am I going from here? What am I doing? How am I going to pay the rent? But I think, like I've been playing music, semi-professionally or whatever, or in a sort of serious way for, I guess, like nearly 10 years now. And I've felt like everything's only felt like it's gone from strength to strength in that time. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we've all together, our kind of community has been on a relatively stable upward trajectory of the more we do it, and the more relationships we make within the community, and the more time we put into making music, like the better and more enjoyable it sort of gets. And I can't see that really stopping. So aside from the odd existential crisis about like, oh shit, like I don't want to be a burnt out, like fucking 40-something-year-old with no prospects, like, am I doing the right thing or whatever? But aside from that, it's just...
Do you become the Coburg Soul version of King Gizzard, where you put out 3 records a year and don't stop? These guys are mad. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think it's a great MO. Eventually, looks like it becomes financially viable if enough people buy into it.
Yeah, I mean, they are certainly like a very, very special case as far as the fervor that they've generated around the band.
Yeah.
But I guess it is a vindication of, the adage that there's no fucking right way to do this stuff. There's no right or wrong way to do this stuff. It's very easy to be presented with certain patterns that, you're told you need to follow in the music industry as far as releasing music or, just being a musician in general. But...
yeah, there's always someone completely breaking the rule, and then everyone suddenly makes that the new rule.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, it changes again.
I don't know heaps about Gizzard, but I feel like I have a relative understanding of, as we all know, Triple J are a very big gatekeeper in Australia, and one of those like aforementioned kind of accepted routes or accepted like ways of doing things that you're kind of told is that if you want to be successful in our domestic music industry, you need the support of Triple J. And I feel like Giz got that kind of early on, but then they started doing freaky shit. And I hope I'm not misinformed on this. I apologize if I am, but I feel like they did that like 12-minute tune or something. They put out a 12-minute tune early on, and
that sounds like something they would do.
Yeah, it was like their big, next single that everyone was like fanging for, and supposedly Triple J were like, how dare you? We can't play this. What are you doing? Like, how dare you disrespect us by like giving us this 12-minute song we can't play on the radio? And I could be wrong, but that's what I heard. And again, it's like it's a vindication that that band just decided they were going to do what they were going to do, and they were going to make a fucking like folk record with acoustic instruments, and they're going to make a more jazz influenced record with odd time signatures and shit, and they're going to make a microtonal thing, and they're going to make a thrash metal record, and they're just going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And it's worked. And
I think with them, no matter what, they were always going to do it, support from a radio station or not, right? Like they're just that kind of driven, it seemed like.
Totally.
Which is so cool. But it seems like you got to be young and hungry and willing to be poor and suffer. As I get older, I'm like, oh, I couldn't do that. Anymore. It just gets more and more difficult.
Totally. The context changes for sure. And I'm really aware that we're very blessed with Surprise Chef at the moment, where everybody is as devoted as one another. And
It's hard to find.
it is really hard to find. And we found kind of after, when you're in music school, everyone's just like keen to play gigs. Like everyone wants to play music. Everyone wants to start bands. Everybody just wants to get stuck in. But understandably, that has an expiration date. And there's only so many like midweek front bar shows that you can do every single fucking week for no money, or for like $20 or $50, or like, a couple of free beers. So eventually that's going to run out, and people do inevitably get more discerning with how they spend their time, which is a good thing. But we're really lucky that, Surprise Chef started as Jethro and I had written songs, and we got in 2 players and 2 mates that we really liked to record them. It was just like, hey, here's the tunes, let's record them. Yeah. And we're very lucky that it's evolved to a place where everybody's on board together. Everybody is willing to play every single week and, take time off to record and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure that's not going to last forever, because life goes on and people's priorities change and they need to do other stuff. But we're right now making the most of having a tight-knit group of musicians that are motivated and have the time and have the sort of flexibility to work hard all the time and play together a lot.
Yeah, while the going's good, keep going, man.
Yeah, make hay while the sun shines.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, how many bands have made it and kept the same lineup the whole time? It's so few that actually can sort of survive that. Radiohead is just, it's such an anomaly to have 5 of them as well. Like, how many clashes must they have had to make that many records?
Yeah, totally. I mean,
it'd be a nightmare.
Yeah, like we haven't gone through the rigors of touring or anything yet with this band. We've all toured with sort of other bands, but this band and this combination of musicians hasn't done it yet. And there's a whole set of pressures that we haven't faced yet that time will tell if we'll withstand them. I mean, it's like it can be tough living pretty much all together, because a share house has its own set of pressures and trials and tribulations, and a band has a whole nother set. And so, like, having to, get into a tough musical situation where we're trying to like write something or work on something, we're disagreeing about ideas or whatever, and then, turning the page on that, and then like immediately getting stuck into some argy-bargy about someone not doing their dishes, like, it's a lot.
Yeah, you're in a serious, committed, long-term relationship with 2 other men that you live with, and then another one who comes and joins in the 4-way.
Exactly.
A few other times.
Exactly.
It's hard to make that last. It can, though. Definitely can.
Yeah, I'm hopeful.
Like, people have done it.
Yeah, I think we're all close enough and honest enough with each other that we can navigate, kind of anything.
No one wanted to sing?
Fuck no.
That answers that.
No, I think
you're the lead singer. The guitar's panned in the center a lot of the times.
Yeah.
The lead vocalist.
Yeah, I mean, I get to have the microphone when we play live to talk shit. I try to keep the shit talking to a minimum, but the instrumental thing, I guess, comes from the fact that we are instrumentalists, and most of the music, or a lot of the music that we're really inspired by, is instrumental music, or the music that we're inspired by, it's the instrumental arrangements that really, really turn us on. Like take James Brown, for example. I mean, sure, he's an incredible vocalist, and the things that he brings to his music vocally are, very striking and important. But when we listen to James Brown, we're listening to the JBs, we're listening to the band. Like, that's the thing that turns us on about that kind of stuff. And by the time we started Surprise Chef, we'd all done vocal bands, and Andrew Congies and I were playing in a sessional capacity in a sort of electronic pop sort of band, very conventional vocal led ensemble, and we would always just jam together in sound check and just play funk grooves and be like, man, we should just make some music like this, like, fuck this other shit. So yeah,
Have you ever had to write lyrics?
yeah. I mean, I had my sad boy indie folk phase
Yeah,
of like
okay. So yeah,
doing open
classic.
mic nights at the Brunswick Hotel, like singing about fucking getting dumped in high school or whatever. I think I've substantially vanquished all traces of that from the internet. I hope.
Nice.
Taking down my fucking Triple J Unearthed page from when I was 18 or whatever.
They've still got it all on file if they need to use it against you.
Oh,
They're like the Scientology of Australia.
Fuck me. I'll be finished if any of that stuff comes out. All my like street cred will just be absolutely gone.
What song by anyone else do you never need to hear ever again?
All of them. I don't like songs. There are too many songs in the world. We don't need any more songs.
We don't need any more songs.
No, there's enough.
We could pause it now.
There's enough. We
Take
could
a
at
break.
least have 10 years off songs.
I've said the same thing.
Yeah. No,
agree.
maybe
Who rubs you the wrong way?
oh, this is good. I like talking shit about people.
Yeah.
Who rubs me the wrong way? I'll be diplomatic and won't name any names, and I'm not thinking of anyone or any ones in particular.
You are, but that's fine.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think something that really rubs me the wrong way is when people lean too hard on aesthetics rather than, music. That always irks me. And I understand, especially people who are trying to exist in a mainstream context, or even just who are trying to cultivate something that to which the aesthetic is very important. I kind of get that from a sort of artistic framework, but it's very easy to see when people are presenting in a contrived way, within sort of funk and soul and what you might consider revivalist music that is reflective of African American culture. You see that shit a lot, and it is absolutely painful when a band or a singer are presenting or delivering in a way that you could call like musical blackface. Like,
I've never heard that expression before.
I've used it a lot, and yeah, just when, singers especially, maybe that's something that contributed to us not wanting to make music with a singer that's in a vein of funk and soul, is because too often the default, like the accepted mode of being like a funk and soul singer is to put on that musical costume of, like really, like a lot of the time, whether these people are trying to do it or not, they're like presenting as, an African American person from the 1960s or 1970s rather than like fucking someone who lives in Faulkner. And,
It's a funny one where you draw the line on influence, huh? Like what's okay and acceptable to borrow from. Because with music, we're all stealing and borrowing and pilfering from all sorts of different places. But I guess that's a whole nother thing that you're sort of talking about.
Well, no, I think it's kind of the same thing. Like, and I think it is, like Surprise Chef plays funk music, and the whole label, the College of Knowledge, is about, funk and soul music, and that has a lot of really important cultural ties that we are, borrowing from. And if someone was to make a negative criticism about the way that we benefit from a style of music that we're not like historically or culturally connected to, I think it'd be a reasonable criticism to make. I think it's just a matter of constantly keeping yourself in check and coming back to like just reflecting on what you're doing and how well you're doing it, how tastefully you're doing it, and listening to criticism. And I definitely don't want to be holier than thou about it.
Yeah, I've never really thought about that too much. I've always just thought with music you can kind of, everyone just takes from so many places that everyone's been stealing off everyone forever. But maybe that's not the case.
No. I know. I would totally agree with you. Like, that's the thing. All music is, everybody's standing on the shoulders of giants, and it's a great thing. It's an excellent thing that musical styles can be, bastardized to a certain way, to a certain degree, to create something completely different. That's fucking great. Like, it's great that there aren't those like walls that enclose genres where it's like, oh no, you can only make this kind of music if you fit a certain description. It's great that that's not the case, but it is definitely something that can be done productively and can be done destructively, and it's just a matter of, like, I don't know, working out which is which and how to do it in the way that you think is cool.
You didn't name a song though, but you never need to hear ever again.
Ah, shit, I don't know.
I feel like MGMT Kids, that one that goes wah.
Yeah.
I never heard that again. I wouldn't care.
My first, like, high school love was a very, very beautiful and incredible person who is still doing music, is doing great stuff in music these days, and she would, like, do a piano rendition of that song, and she played it at school assembly when I had a real crush on her in, like, year 11. And so that song for me is like having this big crush on this girl who is, singing these beautiful songs. So I reckon I could hear that song again.
Okay, that one stays.
But maybe like damn. Fuck.
There's quite a few when I'm at the pub that I end up just being like, oh, for fuck's sake, and like pointing and yelling at whoever's with me.
Yeah, word.
So I do have quite a few.
I feel like I'm not delivering well on this question.
It's okay.
I might have to ruminate on it and come back later.
The last, my friend I interviewed the other day, she said she never needed to hear System of a Down ever again.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
Wake up, going on somebody in the makeup or whatever. But I was into metal as a teenager as well, and that record sounds huge. So I'm like, nah, I got to hear that again.
Yeah, a lot of those bands I still have a real soft spot for.
What were so Pantera? You said, who else?
Pantera was big. I think my favorite band of all time, if I like tracked my level of enthusiasm at any one time for a band, was Metallica.
Right.
Because when I was like maybe 6 or 7 or something, like real young, my sister's boyfriend showed me Metallica, and that just instantly clicked. That was the coolest fucking shit ever, and that was like a huge musical cornerstone for me. Like, that was one of the things that was like.
Can you play some Kirk Hammett solos?
Well, that's the thing. I never was studious enough to learn the solos.
Yeah, right.
I just wanted to like riff out. So I'd play all the like James Hetfield.
Yeah.
Like palm muted. I'd play all that shit, but I was never like motivated enough to actually learn the solos. Maybe that's a good thing as far as my ongoing musicality or something. But yeah, no, I was never like hot enough to play any of the metal. Same as Pantera, like I'd play the riffs, but
Dimebag can shred pretty. I mean, they both can shred pretty gnarly. Dimebag's he's a badass.
Totally badass.
I like whenever it would go to the solo, they wouldn't have a rhythm guitar track in there all the time.
Yeah, totally.
So it just completely open up.
I love that too. That's always been a vibe. I mean, the way that we make our music these days is it's all kind of live, and if there are overdubs, they're sort of minimal. Mm-hmm. And
I never really hear more than one guitar on there.
No, there's definitely there's never any stuff, because it's great to like listen to a recording for me, and I'm just only speaking about my own sensibilities. I'm not like saying this is the right way or whatever, but I love listening to a recording and hearing the sound of a band playing, and it's not.
You don't hear it that much anymore.
No, yeah, and I think that's like I was saying. Andrew and I played in this sort of pop band, and we'd all done sort of sessional stuff that was cool in its own right for sure, but just didn't have the things that really turned us on.
Is there when you guys are doing it though? You are doing it all live, and there's bleed coming from all the other things into the other mics and all that?
Yeah, it's just
cool.
all one room, all to like our 8-track tape machine.
Sick.
So there's like heaps of bleed and
it makes it special when you can hear a little bit of the other guy and the other microphone.
Yeah,
and
and there's
it becomes a whole tapestry of sound almost, instead of everything being so isolated.
Totally. There's like, there's heaps of records. There's heaps of records that we really like that have blemishes and sort of, I hesitate to call them mistakes, but little eccentricities that make it really cool. Like heaps of like Bernard Purdie's stuff, like under his name, not so much his sessional stuff for other players, but he's playing a break or playing a solo, and you can hear him making these weirdo sounds with his mouth that are being picked up in the drum mics. You can hear him being like, ooh. And,
that's all the shit that everyone's always like, damn, this stuff's so cool when someone speeds up and slow down, but it's the first thing that everyone will fix as soon as they're in the control room.
And that's one of the reasons that we record the way that we do, like recording a tape and recording live and stuff, because you just don't have the control over all those little minute parts. So you have to prioritize other things. You have to prioritize the vibe of the recording. You have to prioritize like the performance. Because there are going to be little mistakes, there are going to be human errors, there is going to be push and pull with the time because they're not listening to a metronome, and you just let go of all those other little things. Like, there's no, there's horns and stuff on the first record. There's no like melodyning the horns if they're a little pitchy or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just, here's what it is, and it's a vibe. It's all good.
I just think people got lazy and just stopped playing in bands almost as well. It's got so electronic, and the actual jamming together with other humans has kind of vanished.
Totally, yeah. I try not to be too sanctimonious when it comes to this particular debate, because it is one that people get really
It doesn't
pissed
matter.
about.
It's just
like
a change,
and it's all like the fact that someone can make like, for instance, this is a good example. Henry Jenkins, who engineers all the stuff, who I truly is an absolute beacon in my life. That guy is like never ceases to inspire. He, one of his main musical outputs is Karate Boogaloo, and they do their stuff in a similar fashion to us. No overdubs whatsoever. It's all just the sound of a band in a room, and it's like, it's only musicality. It's no bells and whistles. It's only, the strength of them as an ensemble. But then he also made this super, super deep album of what I guess you'd call glitch music, where he only used a soft synth version of the MS-20 on Ableton. And he just made this amazing record, this super deep record that's just using that. Like, he made a beat tape before that where all the drums were from an iPhone app. And so he's not dogmatic about process. He's not like, it's like tape or nothing, like analog or die, like computers are bullshit.
Like there's any restriction or like, dogma, like you're saying, of that forever is boring. You need to still be able to change. And
totally. And it's like if you have a creative vision in your mind and you want to achieve that, and the best way to achieve that is using auto-tune, using drum machines, using programmed shit, or quantizing your whatever.
Yeah.
That's a vibe. Like,
whatever works.
That's cool. It's just that we're fucking nerds and we want to like hear crustier shit. So that's why our stuff sounds that way. Like, and we've got, there's a tune on the first record where a dump truck was backing down the street, so you can hear the dump truck in the background, and we're happy to have that. But also, if your creative vision didn't include that, that's cool too.
Yeah, completely. Stuckey, do you think the whole world's about to implode, or are we all going to be okay?
I think again, I don't want to speak above my station and try and act like I know everything, because I'll be the first to admit that I'm a fucking idiot that knows nothing. But things have been bad for a long time, and a lot of the stuff that, you know, the real pressures that we're seeing in the world, yeah, it's like a flat circle. This shit keeps on happening. I've been reading about Detroit in 1967 at the moment. There's this great book. I can't remember the name of the author, but it's called... he's called Detroit 67, the Year That Changed Soul. And it's a month-by-month account of what happened in Detroit in 1967 as it pertains to soul music. So particularly, it focuses on Motown, which is the obvious one, Berry Gordy and Motown. And it also pays some attention to like MC5 and the kind of countercultural music movement that was happening with them at the time. And in Detroit in 1967, there were big riots, big race riots. A lot of people were killed. You know, a lot of what were summary executions of African Americans at the hands of white police in the streets. And everybody saw it, and everybody knew it was happening. And, you know, when that shit happened last year with George Floyd, and it got brought to, you know, the Black Lives Matter thing and the police brutality thing got brought to the forefront again of, you know, and the media was covering it. It's like this shit is just part of an ongoing history or an ongoing legacy of this kind of stuff happening. It's not new. If you think it's new, you haven't been paying attention, which is fine, but like now you know. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I guess to answer the question succinctly, I think the world's been imploding for quite a while. And yeah, something's got to change, but I don't know what. I think there are voices more informed and more politically creative than mine that could speculate on what needs to actually change. Mm-hmm. But yeah, shit's been fucked for a minute.
Yeah. I always sort of wonder what it is one is supposed to do when you see it, or everything happening. Listen, obviously, but then sort of action. It's tricky when you look around and there's so much going on. Like, what do I actually do?
Totally. I agree, and I think you're right. Like, I guess listening is the number one thing as a starting point. Yeah, it's kind of a hard one. Like, I've always made an effort to, you know, kind of be donating money to relevant sort of charities and stuff. Nice. And Surprise Chef, like, and to College of Knowledge, like. We've, you know, donated fees and done releases that donate money and all that kind of stuff. But
great.
But at the same time, we don't make much money to begin with. Uh-huh. So whilst it is a good gesture, and I think everybody should be holding themselves to that standard of, like, you know.
Well, the Christians just say give 10%. So
yeah.
Totally. It's the same for everyone. It's still 10%.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so it's hard to know, like, you know this thing with the Bandcamp Fridays where the pandemic happened and Bandcamp were like, we're gonna, you know, once a month we're gonna waive out 10% revenue share, and it all goes to the artist. And my understanding was that was in the interest of supporting artist income, and that gesture of, like, it's always hard to make money as a original artist. It's even harder now that gigs aren't a thing, and the world is fucking grinding to a halt with the pandemic. This is a gesture of, like, we're going to donate our revenue share so that you can make more money. But then everyone started donating their shit. There became this thing of, like, oh, it's Bandcamp Friday. I'm going to do a release. Everything that gets sold today, all the money goes to charity. I don't know if that's necessarily what Bandcamp had in mind. It's not necessarily a bad consequence or anything, but it's just interesting where musicians that already don't make any fucking money are kind of under this pressure, or feel this need to, like, give that what little they are making away. Again, not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but an interesting thing that is maybe connected to.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
maybe this thing that's connected to the thing that we're all brought up with. I mean, I don't know if you're the same, but I was kind of brought up with this understanding that you'll never make any money from music, so don't even fucking think about it. Don't even like, if you're going to do music, you're going to be poor, so like money is not a part of it. And as you get older, you realize that's bullshit and everyone's got to eat. And the things that musicians do are worthy of financial, remuneration or whatever. But I feel like for a lot of people, myself included, there is an internalized, what you do isn't worth money. So,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm getting better these days, but that still sits there in the back of your mind a little bit for sure. But no, you just got to put a price tag on yourself and just not bend.
Totally.
And it will usually start to work. So many people are getting paid. There's a lot that just won't. They're like, nah, this is my rate. And I notice that you go to the acupuncturist, or, you get a massage, or someone comes to fix your tap. Like, none of them go like, oh, actually, no, don't just make it a little cheaper. This is what you pay for the hour.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult one. You sort of, I don't know, just give me, that's fine. Don't worry about today. We'll, But now I'm like, nah, this is what I charge.
Do you find that, that like, as someone who's sort of achieved, a great level of success within your career, do you find that helps you be more, steadfast on valuing what you do, being like, I've done shit, I've got shit under my belt, I got some runs on the scoreboard,
it's only just started to make me feel like that, because I still would do a lot of stuff for free as well. I don't know, I'm only really starting to get better at standing up for getting paid for certain things, for the same reason that you're talking about, like valuing yourself, or just not knowing where to draw the line, where to be staunch or whatever. But now just seeing more and more people around me that have done it, like, fuck, I just got to make that transition of like just setting a value for yourself.
Yeah, totally. I'm a booking agent for a handful of artists, bands and DJs in Melbourne, and all the artists I represent are what you call emerging acts. Like, no one's getting $20,000 fees. So a lot of the time my commission is pretty low. Like, it's not a lot of money. And the first year that I did it, I would constantly just be like, I'm not going to take 10% of your $200 fee. I'm not going to take $20 out of your mouth.
Yeah.
It's fuck all money and you need the money. And I just didn't do it. But then I got to the end of the year and had worked my ass off and still kind of was like struggling to make ends meet. And, I realized the two factors that I needed to really address were that, first of all, $20 off a fee adds up, and $20 is like,
that's lunch one day.
Yeah, totally. Lunch a few days if you're struggling.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, all the artists I represent are all great and have great attitudes, and like, I wouldn't say that anyone takes me for granted, but there is something transactional in maintaining that you've worked, you've provided a professional service, you've done it to the best of your ability, you've been accountable, and you've been communicative, and
it's good for both parties. Yeah.
It's
when someone knows they paid you and you get paid, then everyone turns up with a better attitude. I think. Yeah, for sure. They expect you to work. They can be like, well, you didn't send me this or whatever. Then no one can argue with anyone.
Yeah, totally.
The rate is fixed. And we both do our job.
Yeah, totally. I like, it's if you're getting paid, I feel like the point at which you become resentful is way further into the future.
Yeah.
I feel like you can only do so much free work before you just start to get pissed off at everything.
I've seen some funny ones with bands that have kind of started to do well early on and get decent fees, $5 or $10 a show or something like that for a festival or whatever. But then not even almost realize that for that money they need to turn up on time, be punctual, and play a good gig, and like not be drunk or stupid, or and like to sort of just like take it for granted that they're just supposed to be at this festival. It's like, no, man, they are paying you money. Like, this is a job. You got to actually treat this with a little bit of respect. And I reckon I've been guilty of it at times as well. Like when you're partying a lot or something, and you're like, oh, you just think you're the hero. It's like, nah, there's all these people put the stage together. They set everything up. Everyone's paid tickets. Like, you can't come on stage 20 minutes late because you're feeling capricious or something. It's like, fucking turn up on time, get it done.
Yeah, totally. We don't drink on stage. We used to like
I like
gig,
that.
you have a beer on stage, it's all good, but at some point we kind of came to the collective realization that like
We just don't need more musicians like perpetuating the rock and roll booze myth as well.
Yeah, there's nothing in that. There's nothing in that we relate to. We all love fucking sucking down 100 jars of piss and all that kind of stuff, and being loose and being goofy, but that's got nothing to do with our music. And we didn't come to a venue, drag all our gear, sell tickets, rehearse to sink piss on stage for an hour.
Yeah.
Like, we can drink and do whatever at any other time of our life. It doesn't need to happen whilst we're being paid to play music.
Great. I like this. It's nice to hear. Because, not a lot of people do have that sort of respect for it, do they? Which you understand. It's because it's been a jammy, fun hobby like your mates, and it just carries over into suddenly being a profession.
Yeah, totally.
So you can see how it does happen, but...
Totally. And, the nature of performing and nerves and people having a bit of a drink to take the edge off, and then that becoming a part of their routine when they play. They got to have a couple of drinks. And
it's just not many industries where they hire you for a job and then give you heaps of piss before you do the job.
Yeah, exactly. I think about that a lot. One of the ways that I like pay my rent is just DJing, playing records in bars. And that's, like that kind of excess and that substance thing is part of the industry. Like,
yeah.
And so many of the people that have been doing that for 10, 15, 20 years drink a lot because it's there and you do it and it's fun. And obviously it can be a slippery slope.
And also, when you think about people talking about sexual harassment and weird stuff going down, it's like, there's heaps of booze that always makes weird stuff happen. Not justifying it in any way, but it's like, of course, there's like a lot that needs to change if we actually want this to function a little bit better.
Yeah, no doubt, for sure. I agree completely. And the thing of like, what we were talking about earlier, of all of those on the nose or like blatantly, irresponsible actions just kind of falling under the category of rock and roll music.
Yeah, totally.
It's like that was pretty fucked, but what do you do? Like, we were all fucked up and it's loose and everyone, like, no one knows what's going on. That just needs to change. Like,
definitely.
Completely needs to change.
It's starting to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems to be making substantial change. I mean, like, when I started playing gigs, which wasn't really that long ago, the idea of an all-male lineup was the norm. Like, it wasn't taboo at all. I mean, the first band that I was in was like equal members, male and female, and a lot of, I went to music school with a lot of women. So a lot of the bands I was playing in and the scenes that I was kind of a part of did have a lot of women involved. But there would be all-male lineups, and it was just not a thing. And I feel like now that's just simply not the case. Like, I feel like especially in our community, if you are going to book an all-male lineup, like, book a gig with 4 bands and a DJ and there's not a woman in sight, you got to be ready to like answer for that, like be accountable.
I'm just so used to it because that was just what it always was for such a long time.
Yeah, totally.
That one was funny to me because I've just always got people that bands that I like to play with or who I know are around, and I don't think I ever thought about it in any sort of gender way, because sometimes I was in bands with women, other times I wasn't, and it was just whoever I've been in a band with or played with has just been whatever I've liked. So I never thought of it being any sort of anti-women or like, but it's a funny one. I'm not sure sometimes about what I think of this, of being in trouble for just getting your friends to play a gig and if they just happen to be men,
Yeah, for sure. I feel that. And I feel like, the criticism often isn't, oh, you haven't booked female bands on this, so you hate women. But I think, again, it's just kind of keeping yourself accountable with the sort of ramifications of everything you do. I mean, I think the representation thing is important because of that cliche of like, if you can't see it, you can't be it.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, for sure.
we want to be a part of something where, like, we don't want people that aren't men to come to our shows and be like, oh, this is cool, but like, there's no one here that I can relate to. There's no one here that looks like me. And it has been kind of tough because what we do is a pretty niche sound in Melbourne, and there isn't a lot of stuff going on that we really like. There's only 3 bands on College of Knowledge. It's all dudes. There's been a lot of women who've played on the records, but as far as the core membership of the band, it's all dudes. But it is a very, very small collection. But so we do kind of have that problem of like, oh, well, do we book bands? If we're booking a gig, do we book supports that work musically or do the gender thing?
Yeah.
Because
it's a tricky one,
for the most part, we kind of can't do both. And I think a lot of the time we just would prefer to prioritize like, sure, maybe the support isn't going to be like within the same genre as us, but the music they make is great, and it is, makes everybody feel better to know that the lineup is sort of inclusive and represents something a little bit larger than just like, just music. But I hear what you're saying, like, and the criticism thing is a whole nother part of it. What is the best way to pull someone up? What is the best way to like get someone to interrogate their own thing? Like you're saying that, you get bands to play, and most of the time they might just be dudes, just because that's what it is, and it's not out of any kind of misogynistic agenda,
of course.
But having that conversation that like.
But I like the idea of what you're saying. Yeah, if people don't see it, then it's not represented, and then they don't feel like they can be a part of it. It is great that there's more women starting bands, then there'll be a whole new generation of people inspired by that, and it will change everything.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
like not to be like a spokesperson or anything, because I'm certainly not, and it's like I'm not the right person at all. But I feel like there's probably a lot of women who go into music and feel like they either got to be a singer or a piano player or something, because that's what that's like the girls'
or the bass
instruments
player, because that was what was in the Smashing
yeah,
Pumpkins.
Smashing Pumpkins, yeah, or like Sonic Youth,
yeah, totally.
But so yeah,
but that even just proves what that representation will do, right? Because those women were bass players, then there would have been more female bass players.
Yeah, fucking oath. Like I think that's the thing. It's like, I don't think it's again, like booking your mates who are dudes. I don't think it's happy to be pulled up on this, but I don't think that's like an inherently like violent or aggressive thing to do. But if you can kind of just like be a bit responsible, do your bit to show representation and give opportunities to bands that it may be harder to book, because like the music industry is guilty of being a boys club, and people book their mates, and their mates are dudes, and a lot of the people in power are dudes, and so if you have that opportunity to give a leg up to someone who may find it harder to get gigs, be that people of color or non-males or whatever, then like why not? It's a good thing to do.
Yeah,
But I also would never want to be sanctimonious about it. Like I would never get on my high horse or like fucking. I've never cancelled anyone. Like put it that way. I've never like called someone out on the internet or whatever. But
nah, I'm too scared because if someone will just come for me.
Oh yeah.
I don't want stuff coming out about me. I'm like, I'm not calling anyone else.
Yeah,
anything, man.
Definitely seen my fair share of people who are very loud in that space. People, living in glass houses but throwing stones more than anybody else. Totally. And it's like a matter of time before someone just sort of like puts 2 and 2 together and go, hey, actually you're guilty of half this shit that you've been calling other people out for.
I saw today that English band Sleaford Mods, they tweeted, in the future, everyone will be cancelled for 15 minutes.
Dope. I like that. I want to get cancelled, man. I don't want to do anything that should get me cancelled, but I want to get cancelled.
Yeah, good press.
Yeah. Cool.
Hey, thank you very much, Stuckey. I really enjoyed chatting with him. It's nice to get some fresh perspectives on a bunch of things. He's a very articulate and thoughtful guy and a badass musician. If you haven't, check out the Surprise Chef Records. The new one, Daylight Savings, sounds juicy. My favorite tracks, the title track, Daylight Savings, song Leave It, Don't Take It, and track 2, Deadlines. You can follow the band and the record label College of Knowledge on Instagram and keep up to date with all the goings on and latest releases. Tune in. It's top shelf stuff, everybody. All right, that's us for this week. Thanks for tuning in. Pleasure to have you back in a few weeks' time with another episode. Until then, stay safe and try not to be a cunt where possible, is what I have written down here. I will try also. Let's all do our best. Hey, very good. See you later.